What's up, everybody? It's been a few days since I got to do a video for John, our reading challenge. Today is the last day. Man, today is Easter Sunday. What an exciting day. It's been a really cool thing to go through. I know I've really enjoyed it. I hope that you guys have. And this will be something that we continue to do, reading together as a church, and you guys getting to hear perspectives from different people in our church. And I think it's been really cool to hear different folks weigh in. And so it's been really enjoyable for me. We're going to continue today. So the setting is actually not on Resurrection Sunday. It's not on Easter. But what we're going to be talking about in John is actually after Jesus has resurrected and he's visited the disciples a couple of times. And the scenario that we're walking into is one with Peter, where they've gone out fishing while they're, anticipating Jesus coming to visit them. And Peter, just like always, is restless. And he's like, hey, let's go fish. I know how to fish. Let's go out here. And so they've been fishing all night. And they hear someone call to them from the shore and ask them how it's been going. And of course, they haven't caught any fish. And he tells them to fish in a different spot. And when they do, they load up. And it wasn't long before they realized that it was Jesus. And as soon as Peter realized that it was Jesus, he jumps out of the boat and makes his way to shore. And so, man, if you know anything about Peter, this is classic Peter. He's been a pretty eventful guy throughout this whole thing. And ultimately, he was a disciple that denied Jesus 3 times. And it's so hard to wrap my brain around in a way, because I think, man, if I was with Jesus, if I spent time with him and learned from him, I would never deny him. I would never do that. But man, the more I think, what if everybody around you turned on what you believed in? What if everybody around you disagreed, or everybody was talking about the thing that you were doing being the thing that wasn't cool, the thing that didn't fit in, the thing that wasn't right for this time, for this day and age? And I think about there's some of that going on now. We try really, really hard to accept people and allow people to, kind of do what they want, kind of figure out their own life. We try to accept people, and man, there's some hard discussions that happen at our workplaces. There's some hard discussions that happen probably, within our families, within our friends. And man, sometimes we believe things that other people don't. We believe things that people are saying, man, you're narrow-minded if you think this way. You're not open-minded if you think this way. And so while I struggle with understanding how Peter could deny Jesus after being with him so much, I begin to think of, what if that was me? What if I was Peter in that scenario? And what would I have done? I'd like to think that it would have been different, but I don't know. There's a lot of pressure there. There was a lot of pressure coming from people around Peter. And man, it was easier in that moment, not knowing what to do. It was easier to deny Jesus than it was to stand up for him. And so, we go on, we get in John chapter 21, and we see where Jesus begins a conversation with Peter. And I want to read this. This is John chapter 21, verse 15. It says this: when they had finished eating, by the way, another reason I love Jesus, he made breakfast on the beach, fish, and who knows what else he made, but it had to be good because it was early in the morning. Jesus knows how to cook. He apparently knew how to catch his own fish because he had fish before they brought him. But anyway, Jesus had made them breakfast and they had eaten. Verse 15 says, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. And so if you do some study on this, there are definitely some different perspectives, but the main thing that you see is when Jesus was asking Peter, do you love me? He's saying, Peter, do you love me unconditionally? Do you love me with everything that you have? And Peter says, of course I love you like a brother. And Jesus basically said, that's not what I asked. I asked, did you love me unconditionally? And Peter said, Jesus, you know that I love you like a brother. And what Jesus was looking for there was total commitment. Obviously, because Peter had denied him, Jesus needed to know where Peter stood. He needed to know that Peter loved him unconditionally, that no matter what happens, no matter what may come, that his love for Jesus would not end. And Jesus was testing him in that. And then as we go on, as you read, and I would encourage you to do some more study, we find out that Jesus gives Peter a picture of what's going to happen at his own death. And basically he says, there's been time where you've made your own decisions and gone where you wanted to go, but there will be a time where you stretch out your arms and someone will clothe you and they will take you where you do not want to go. And of course, as we've studied, as I've heard and studied, we find out that Peter was crucified. And he chose to be crucified upside down so that he wouldn't be crucified in the same way as Jesus, because he didn't believe he was worthy. But Jesus was looking at Peter and he said, hey, you're going to die for following me. Are you sure this is how committed you are? This is going to get difficult. This is going to be hard. And man, I just can't help but think, like, as Christians, we don't have to face death because we follow Jesus, or most of us, if I'm assuming none of us have been faced with a question of, say that you love Christ and you'll die, deny Christ and you won't have to die. But this is exactly the way that our relationship with Jesus should be. We should be willing to die for the cause of Christ, for whatever Jesus said is right, for whatever he said that we are supposed to do, wherever we are supposed to go, we should go. And we should be that committed to him. Our love for him should be unconditional, which means without condition, which means without any reason to deny Christ. And man, we want to, I'm so quick to want to beat up on Peter and say, man, how could you turn your back on Jesus? But I remember a time in high school that I was asked to pray in front of my peers, and I said no. And man, that day still, it doesn't haunt me because I know that I have the forgiveness of Christ in that. But there won't be another time where I deny that. There won't be another time where I say no. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's awkward, I'm going to stand up for Christ. I'm going to make that commitment. And of course, now I have it on video, so you guys can hold me accountable to it. But that would be my challenge to you guys. What is a scenario where you think you might struggle admitting that you know Jesus? Or where has been a time where you have denied Christ in the past? And I want to challenge you with that. I want to ask you to define that moment, or to say, hey, I'm going to struggle here if this happens. But then I also want to remind you that Jesus had a conversation with Peter and he said, hey, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? He gave Peter a chance. He reinstated Peter. He brought Peter back into his fold, I guess, into his flock. And Jesus will do that for us too. So if we do fail, if we do deny Christ, if we do have a moment of struggle, that's all right. Repent and turn. And Jesus' love is unconditional. It never wavers. He will always welcome us back with a repentant heart, and learn to love Jesus unconditionally and feed his sheep. Disciple those around you. Love those around you. Tell everybody you know about Jesus. Happy Easter. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon.